Hello and welcome back. This is Sherri with Heart and Soulful. I'm back in the studio with a flip through today. It's been a while since I've done something like this. I have been away and sick and not posting full-length kind of tutorial videos in a little bit because I've been having so much fun playing with just some abstract mixed media art. So I do a lot of different things. If you've been following my channel, if you haven't, welcome. If this is your first time, I will put a link down in the description whenever I have make reference to other videos or things and supplies and all that kind of stuff. So if you ever have any questions about something I'm using or another video I've referenced, check down below first and you might find your answer right there. So what I wanted to share was this little journal. It's really small. I'll measure it here, but you can see it's just about the size of my hand. And let me measure it for you. I don't think that I did much of this one on camera. It is about 4 inches by roughly 6 inches. And I have this thing for small things. So I have been, in the past, several months ago, I was kind of on a kick of doing journals and trying to find small vintage books to turn into journals. And so this was another one I did. I have full tutorials start to finish. So I will put a link to the playlist about using old books for journals down in the description. And I think I have a couple different playlists, so I'll put them down there that way in case this is the type of thing that you're interested in watching. I have quite a few videos on this. Like I said, I do a lot of different things, and so I try to organize my channel into playlists so that you can find them. Okay, so I wanted to share this one because I like to share when I experiment something and maybe find out, I don't want to call it a mistake, but find an issue maybe with something that I did and how I corrected it. And then that way, if you're doing something for the first time also, you maybe can learn from my mistakes and then, you know, kind of avoid them yourself. But this one ended up turning out okay. And I don't think, even if I show it here by the spine, I don't think it's obvious what my issue was, but I'm going to point it out here in a second. So I did a different kind of binding with this type of putting together the pages, and that's why I had the issue. What happened is, if you've been watching, recently I was playing around with Coptic stitch bindings so that your pages will lay flat. And this one sort of is, it's done in a Coptic stitch, but I did it with signatures instead of each page just being stitched together. So if you're not familiar with that, I will try to pull out just the one video I did. I may have more than one, but the recent one that I did on Coptic binding so that you understand what I'm talking about. And that way this will make more sense. But when I've done Coptic binding in the past, or like a kettle stitch binding so that your pages open flat, I've done that, but with art journals. So that's because of the type of journaling, and you're doing spreads and you maybe have lots of liquid going on and that kind of stuff. So that's the context of when I'd used them before, but I wanted to do them in a journal where I used a lot of different types of papers and vintage book page and papers that I had coffee stained and a lot of different things. And that also then includes things with pockets and tucks and that sort of thing. So the issue I had with this is that when you create pockets, your book is going to be thicker on the bottom than it is on the top if you are to squish all your pages together. And the other thing that I like to do is I like to do staggered and different size pages, as you can see in this one. So what happened is most of my pages, even if they're shorter, sometimes I center them, but oftentimes the bulk of it is at the bottom. So you can see when I squeeze this tight how thick that is. Okay, because there's pockets and things here. But if I do squeeze the top, it's much thinner. So what happened is, as I was stitching my book together, I didn't have this even. If you kind of, when you're doing a Coptic stitch, you have everything kind of tight so you don't have big gaps in between your pages. So what happened is, by doing it tight, this ended up tighter, and I ended up with a spine that kind of tapered smaller as it went down. And I didn't like the look of that at all. It looked wrong. It looked like I had made a mistake. So to fix it, rather than keeping my Coptic binding exposed, I decided to go ahead and do a spine cover. And that way I thought when I glue the cover on, I'll try to really hold this tighter and let this be a little bit more loose. And that way maybe I can even it out visually. And that's what happened. I think you can see it doesn't look too bad. So I have videos, previous videos on, you know, what I'm doing with these kind of slow stitched spine covers. And this is maybe more simple than some of the other ones that I've done. But I kind of let the inside of the journal lead me to what I wanted to do on my spine cover. So if you notice, this is a pictured piece of fabric, and what I had done was to print onto fabric and then did my stitching. And I also have some patches here of other, but also printed fabric that I printed, and then I just kind of pieced them together. So I will put down in the description some video on slow stitching spine covers too. I'll try to find some on that, and so you can kind of take a look at that if you've never done that before. But this particular printed one, I believe, is from ROXY Creations. It may be one of my own. If you've been following me, I had purchased her French Chateau series of digital kits. And then I created my own digital kits that coordinated so that when I'm using hers, I can also use some of mine. And that way it would make my journals unique. So I think this is one of hers. And then I think this printed fabric this is printed on fabric, but this was also one of hers. So I used that for the front and the back. And you can see, I think that's even a building, but a different building. This piece of fabric, I did use a piece here. So I wanted it to kind of flow the look of my spine. So you're going to recognize this sort of viney thing with flowers is what I ended up doing on this tree. So I kind of I'll get up close here so you can see. I kind of just let the fabric guide me and did some just different stitching so that I would have some texture. And then I added the tree in over the top. And then I had cut my fabric kind of narrow, so I wanted it to wrap a little bit more on the front. You can see it would have only come over this far. So I did kind of a detached blanket stitch embroidered so it would give me some depth here, and then added a piece of lace. So I'm really pleased with how that turned out. And it coordinates nicely with my inside, front, and back cover. And then I'll just flip through here. I did a tutorial on making these little matchbook notepads. So you may have seen this journal in another video at some point before it was finished. But I'll just flip through. A lot of the papers are either papers that I've copy stained, some of the digitals from Rachel at ROXY Creations, some doily, some vintage book page, and I've reinforced these fragile ones, and I have videos on how I've done all of that in those previous videos that you can look back and find. And usually in the title I'll kind of tell you what's in that, and even in the description. So if you're looking for a specific video, it'll usually tell you in the title what tutorial it's going to cover. I do have some on printing on fabric, and I've done them over the years, but I finally found the absolute best method for doing that and making it waterproof. And so I'll definitely put that video down below because that is a much watched video. Some of these I didn't glue a pocket in yet. You know, it kind of gives you the option of doing what you want, whoever ends up with this book. So this may end up in my Etsy shop or not. Part of me wants to kind of keep it whenever I do something that's maybe like the mistake kind of thing, so that it will remind me, you know, that next time I do this binding, I need to think ahead about the difference. And I think what I would do so that this doesn't happen again is either one, use a different type of of binding, or if I really want to do the Coptic stitch so that I can do an exposed thing, maybe I do it where I have the pockets are all folded down and they're not up into the book yet, so that when I stitch the spine together, all the pages are more even. That's just going to have to be another experiment for another time, because it didn't really work out so much. I really like how this one looks. So just some different paper. Like I said, if you've seen this flip through before, I may have done it. I don't remember now. It's been so long. So just some old school book pages, and this is a real vintage book. And a lot of times I'll go ahead and leave, if I needed to trim it, just fold it over. You can use that then to add another piece of paper, and then it'd be kind of a flip thing to add to it. So I try not to tear off like little extra bits, because maybe you want to tear them off and use them for collage on another page, or, you know, it's just kind of extra paper I don't want to tear off. So this one, again, I just folded up and made a pocket. So just a nice fun variety. I really like how the inside, as far as the papers I chose, turned out. So I really needed to fix this one and make it work, because I liked the book cover and I liked the pages I chose. The only thing I didn't like was that I didn't like how it bound together. This is super old, from the 1800s, 1881. So just a fun little journal to play in. And then the other thing that I did different on this one was I did a different sort of closure, and it was just kind of a fun way to do it, so that this can, you know, if it gets really thick, it can wrap around. Or I have been doing them where I've been putting an eyelet here and then they close here, but I kind of like the look of this one being tied up with a bow on the top like a package. And so that was just made by doing 2 holes with the eyelets, and then I just ran the ribbon through. So you could always take this out and make it shorter or longer, or change it if you want, whatever. But I'm happy with how it turned out. So let me know what you think down in the comments. And I'm going to get back to work on, I do have a couple other journals started that I need to finish up. And then if you did watch my last couple of journal related videos, I am starting one for a friend of the family. It's probably not going to be finished for a very long time. I'm going to be leaving here in the next week or 2. So unless I can get it finished before I'm gone, I'm probably going to be gone for a few months. So I am going to try to continue to work on art things and record videos if I can. So it's going to be a new experience, but we're going to see what we can do. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. Now go make something. Bye.